Excellent.
Hello and welcome to the AI Argument Season 5. It's been another incredible week, a terrible week for actors, Frank, I'm sorry to say, but a great week for AI. What caught your attention?
Actually, loads of stuff caught my attention. But will we? All right. Are we coming back to the actors thing, or will I ask you about that now?
Let's talk about it a bit now.
Yeah. So what are you referring to?
Well, there was a couple. Okay, so a couple of really interesting things. It would seem like every piece of news that I saw this week related to video content or voice content, and in each one of those, it seemed like it was. In most cases, now I have a great business idea, Frank, which I'm going to share with you. But in most cases, it seemed like it was a bad week for voice actors. So there was poor old Sarah Poyser. She worked for the BBC, and she was a voiceover lady, and she got an email from the BBC this week saying that she was no longer required, and that she had been replaced by AI, and that's pretty
Wow.
tough. I mean, that's pretty tough for her. So that certainly happened. There was then this. I don't know if you saw this
So
on.
let's just talk about that for a second, because I'm actually surprised. I mean, I have heard some really good cloned AI voices, but I wouldn't have thought that I had heard anything that could replace a human, unless, I guess, you just don't require any great emotional variance in the voiceover. And
Oh,
maybe
that's okay. Your point is perfect. Is on point. All right. So there was another company this week. Let's see if I can see what they were called. Yeah, the HeyGen people, right? HeyGen, right?
Mm,
So and you may have seen what they did. So you could take my
yeah,
voice here, right, and I would sort of do the hand movements and whatever. But once you had recorded that, you could put any words. It was like a deep fake, but a really good deep fake,
yeah,
right?
I
And then on
saw that.
Twitter,
So they've had like video avatars for a while. I made a video avatar of myself,
yes,
and it
yes,
will do kind of what you're seeing now. It will do very well, kind of talking heads, and a little bit of it might have a little bit of hands here. But the one that they released this week, or they haven't actually released it, I don't think. They've just released demos of it, but they
yes.
were they were actually able to have a guy walking down a path and like full hand gestures and movement. That was incredible. So
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a brilliant tool, right? And did you see that they put all sorts of words into his mouth? They made him speak Chinese, or made him speak Spanish, I think it was, and
That's
some
right.
other
They
language.
swapped language right in the middle of the clip. I'd forgotten that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really good. And what I love about what this technology does, and they're the second people I've seen to do it, is that the lips also change, right? So it looks like they're making the shapes of the words with their mouths. So the lip syncing is totally in check, in tune with the words that are coming out of the mouth, which is mind boggling, right? So here's my brilliant idea, right? I'm going to give this one for free to Netflix,
No,
right? They
hang
can
on.
take it.
Could we not become millionaires from this? No.
No, no, I don't think so because it's
Okay.
moving too fast. Actually, I wouldn't invest in this, right? So I love French movies, right? I
Yeah.
think French movies are great, but I don't like French. I don't speak it very well. I'm not good at French, right? And I'm sure French people, they like American movies, but they don't like American and they don't speak it very well either, right? In fact, they hate it. There was laws in France in the 80s to stop that sort of thing, right? So why don't they just dub it with the real actors? So you could have Sean Connery in The Rock and he'd be speaking French and his lips would move perfectly in French and it would sound like Sean Connery. What a great idea. Think
Yeah.
of all
I
the
mean,
brilliant French movies. I particularly like French movies, right? They have loads of really good movies, but also there's a lot of ones coming from, the Far East now. What was that one? The Human Centipede and some of the other ones. And they could all be dubbed into English and we could watch them I saw another. I mean, I don't know.
I
Is that
think
something that you think is not great for voice actors, Frank? Not good for
not
actors in general,
no, not great for
but
voice
great for
actors,
the
but
movie industry.
at the same time, I mean, I do not like watching dubbed movies.
Hmm.
Whereas I think this would change. I mean, I just wouldn't know they were dubbed, would I? I'd just be watching for for all I knew, I'd just be watching the original version if they went this route. And yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable. I think you're right. It's moving really quickly, and I think it's inevitable. I'd be really curious to watch how long it takes for this to actually happen. The one, I guess, the one big roadblock would be whether actors will license their voices. And I'm not. I'm actually. I would need to go back because I wasn't following it, thinking about this specifically. But like, It'd be interesting to go back now and see what was actually hammered out with the unions during the actors' strike,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whether there are any provisions about voice. There must be, I would say, I would imagine there must be. I know that there were for likenesses. So it'll be interesting to see, like, will actors be willing to license their voice? And I would be like, any actors licensing their voices now, I would be really cautious and careful about like what's in that contract and how long that voice is licensed for, and what the fees are.
Why would you be, why would you, I mean, if I'm making a movie,
Mm,
right? And I get Frank Prendergast, you're going to be my leading guy, right? We're going to put you all across the world. It's going to be Frank on the billboard posters, right? We're
yeah.
sitting out there. But Frank, I want you to speak French as well as German and Italian and Chinese and, all
Yeah.
these other languages.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. As long as the license is for that film specifically and only that film, and there are
Yeah.
residuals for every territory, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the problem is, with the problem is with data grabs and land grabs, and the problem is that there will be companies trying to grab the actors, particularly if they're not a big actor. If they're a smaller actor, they'll be saying, "Oh, we've got this great opportunity for you. We've got a great role in the series for you. You just have to sign here on the dotted line," and suddenly you've licensed away your voice, not for this series, but forever.
Yeah.
And now they have a voice clone that they can use ad infinitum on God knows how many projects. So that's where I think people will need to be really careful. Voice actors need to be really careful. But
Did you
yeah,
see? I saw another. I saw it's totally related. That's why I say every story this week, right, was related to this. So I saw another demo of a product this week, and again, it was a movie, and it was an actress, and the actress there was a piece of dialogue in this movie, and it was 18s, right? There was profanity and all sorts of bad language, right? So you see that bit first, you see it, right, and then they said, right now we're going to download it to a 16s, and the AI just changed some of the words and took out some of the words,
right.
and then they brought it down again and said, right now it's 12s. So there was
Yeah,
no profanity, right? And then they brought it down to PG. And
yeah,
the head what it did was for the first two it changed some of the words. And then for the other ones, she just, sort of nodded her head and went, for the instead of beeping it out, like it just sort of toned it down.
yeah.
And that was
Brilliant.
another really interesting idea that I hadn't thought about before, which is you could take, so now I can make one movie, I can distribute that movie worldwide, right? It's going to speak that language. And depending on who's watching my Netflix stream, if it's the kids or if it's the
Yeah.
adults, it'll be age appropriate to the people who are watching the movie.
That is brilliant, because the ramifications of that had not struck me. Like I saw I saw that demo, but I hadn't actually just joined the dots and realized what that means in terms of revenue for films, because like getting an R rating on a film is death to revenues.
Yeah.
So, a lot of films are trying to make lower and lower ratings, but then they know also that the older audiences are wary about, watching a film that is PG, say. And so
Oh, I was
this
going to,
is,
I seek out the R movies, Frank.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So they're concerned at both ends. They're concerned about
Yeah.
restricting it to people our age, and also concerned about restricting it to people who will not watch a PG movie. So this is, I mean, the economic ramifications of that could be massive.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I mean, again, this comes back. I know that this is the AI argument, right? And you're worried about AI. But again, I look at this and I say, this is brilliant. Like, creates great opportunities for actors and for movie studios and for Netflix and stuff like that. I mean, I think these are some of the best use cases for AI. Actually, I'll tell you what I did this week, right, in my own professional sphere, right? So I work in a multinational company, and I was given a demo of some help desk software that we were developing with AI, and in that room, right, we're a multinational, so there were people from China, Pakistan, there were people from where else? We had Bulgaria, Croatia, we had Indians, we had Turkish, we had people from all over the world, right? And so I gave the demo, and they were all blown away. They thought it was brilliant. And then it said, right, can you ask me questions in your own language? And so the first question that came through was Chinese. So I copied the Chinese question. I put in a system prompt that says you have to answer the question in the same language that you were asked. And it comes back in Chinese. And I just go to the person in China and I say, is that a good answer? And their jaw was on the ground. They were like, what?
Yeah,
Wow. Right.
yeah,
So then I said,
yeah,
right, next up then was Arabic. which is backwards. The language isn't even typed in the right way, right? It goes the wrong way. So I typed the Arabic in. We typed in the Arabic, and I said, "Look, is that a good answer?" And they were like, "It's perfect. It's perfect."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, it's not just in the movie industry that this. I mean, marketing for marketing, this is enormous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so uh, I actually reviewed a tool a while back, which was it would create um, video ads for products. And like when I was testing it, I was like, how does this work? Because I was looking at the homepage and it looked like it had like people talking about the product. It does. They've clearly, licensed these video avatars of various different people. And so you can have this like huge range of video avatars talking about your product, which was fine if it would also come up with the AI ad. You just tell it a bit about your product and it comes up with an AI ad. And some of them were fine because they were like, just telling you about the features and the benefits of the product. Grand. I don't have a problem with that for AI. But then some of them were like, oh, I met up with my sister for movie night last night and we got one of these snack packets and they're so good, they're so delicious, and now um, this is a new tradition that we have at movie night that we're going to get one of these snack packets. And I was like, whoa, hang on, that's weird. Like now this is presenting as if it's user generated content, as if it's, a customer of the brand who has tried out this product and has a sister and has movie nights with that sister. And I was like, that's dodgy. Like that's
Like
dodgy. I think that
you think that's
crosses
dodgy, do you?
I think that crosses a line, yes, because it's presenting as a person and the content is presenting as a person. I'm okay with an AI avatar presenting information, but presenting as a person and having the context of a sister and movie night, I think that crosses a line because unless you have like AI generated content plastered all over that, which I think you will have to once the AI Act comes into play. But unless you have that, like right now, if you do that, someone's just going to watch that and think, oh, wow, that's social proof. That's an actual customer who loved this snack packet and has it every week with her sister. I definitely think that there's an ethical line there.
God, I'm clearly getting too old. That just sounds to me like marketing. Like, is that not just marketing? Guinness is good for you. No,
It's
it isn't. But it's a great tagline. It's not. It never was good for you. You
yeah.
know.
I mean, but there's probably a study somewhere that shows that, Guinness is good for one specific thing in very particular circumstances. And some marketers said, hey,
Iron,
we can use that. Guinness is good for you. Um,
iron, Frank. Iron,
and-
good for iron.
yeah. So,
So,
yeah,
but I would have thought that's. But I mean, I thought that all is fair in love and war when it comes to marketing. I thought, it's okay, to put out as long as it's not a total lie. I mean, somewhere
but
there's somebody who's
that is a total lie. There is no woman. She
somewhere
doesn't have a
somebody's using
sister.
it at their
She
movie
didn't,
night
she didn't have a
snack.
movie night.
But I mean, that's like if I get like Roy Keane to advertise, some crisp packet. Roy
Mm.
Keane, I bet you doesn't eat crisps, but he's, but he's there and he's eating the crisps. He says they're gorgeous. That's fine. That's marketing. It's advertising. I'm interested. I mean, I think it's great that we've got advertisers who've got morals and mores and lines that can be crossed. But I'm surprised, and I wonder how many people in the marketing industry would you think agree with you?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. I know that in my sphere, 90% would agree with me, but then obviously I congregate with what I would call ethical marketers. Um, so, yes, I would love to know what the percentage out there of marketers that would not share my level or my standard, my personal standard of ethics. There's a lot of it out there, but I would hope that most marketers actually 100% believe that you should be ethical, you should be truthful, because otherwise it damages your brand in the long term. And I hear what you're
Mm.
saying about like crisp ads and stuff, but there's a certain kind of um, there's a certain acceptance of particular types of ads. So if you see a celebrity in an ad, you know they've been hired for that ad. But if you
Yeah,
see someone you don't recognize in an ad saying, "Ooh, I love this product," your assumption is it's Joe Public. So
yeah.
so therefore I think it becomes dishonest because you're not making it clear that that AI was hired for the job in a similar way that George Clooney was hired by the little pods, whatever they're called.
The coffee people,
Yeah,
Tissimo or whatever. Yeah, yeah, maybe. I'll tell you what was very troubling for me this week in this was there was another video that went viral where it was a woman and she was in a car and again her hands were moving like this and she was saying something and it was posted on Twitter and it said, "Wow, this is wild. This video was made totally by AI." And then there was a big argument online as to whether it was totally made by AI or not.
well,
And I think
I think that was a video avatar. I saw that as well, and I think that was a video avatar along the lines of the HeyGen one we're talking about.
yes, I think it was. But what was scary for me was I'm like, this is a technology that I deal with every day. I love it. And it's now got to the point where I look and go, I can't vouch for this one where it could be AI completely, or it may not be. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I literally
we
don't
just
know.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. Now, there's an upside. I can give you an upside to this, Frank, because every cloud
yeah.
has a silver lining, right? Which is when I was growing up, there were no camera phones, right? They didn't exist, right? And I'm very lucky because if camera phones existed between the ages of 20 and 25, when I was 25, God only knows what it would have captured. And then
Hmm.
teenagers and young people for the last, since 2007. So what's that now? That's nearly, well, it's 10 or 15 years, right? They've gone through this horrible period where camera phones did exist, but there were no deep fakes. So if you saw a video of somebody jumping out a window naked, that was true. It actually happened. Whereas now, as we go forward, you can deny everything. Say, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. No, that's deep fake. Nothing to do with me. So that's a plus for the young people.
Do you think we will? Do you think we will crack the problem of? I mean, okay, there will always be bad actors no matter what. And if we have open source AI, there will be bad actors. They will be able to do what they want. I know, there's a lot of attempts. We talked before about like flagging AI content, but there's also a lot of attempts to, in some way, watermark it, or in some way, maybe blockchain enthusiasts are talking about maybe using blockchain to so that we can track back to the source of digital content.
Mm.
Do you think we will get to the point where you will try to claim that it's deep faked and we will be able to say, no, it doesn't have the flags?
No, I actually, this is one facet of AI. I think society is just going to get to the point where, unless it's almost like unless you've seen it, I don't believe it. So if I see a video of something, I'm just going to assume that it's probably not real, unless somebody
Yeah.
else says, no, no, I was actually there. I did see him jump out of the window naked,
Which
or whatever it happened to be.
which speaking of silver linings, if you wanted to see a silver lining in that, I came across an article about this very thing, about things not being real and about how we had to question everything. And the author of the article said something about, well, that's our shared reality out the window. We don't have a shared reality anymore. And I was like, we never had a shared reality. It just felt like we had. And so if there's a silver lining to be had, it's that there is no question about it. We absolutely have to question everything, which we actually always should have been.
Frank, you actually dropped out my audio there, so I have no idea what you said. But what I will say is this, right? This week also there was released an academic paper where they used AI as a fact checker. So I do see that there are technological solutions that will be able to be used against that. So let's say you come out with a video, and on that video, whatever it sees that you're doing something, right? That let's say you're a politician, and it says that you've said a certain thing or you've met a certain group of people or something like that. And what this particular what they did basically was they took GPT-4 and they would take an article in this case, but it could in the future be a video, and then it would break it down and it would start to check each single facet of it. So it would go, okay, this says that Frank was in Minneapolis on Tuesday. Let's go and check and see, can I verify if Frank was in Minneapolis on Tuesday or not? Okay, it says that Frank met this person. Let's go and see if that person exists and do they whatever. So it just breaks it down bit by bit, right? That was what the prompt did. And then it fired off sub agents to check each of those. And I think that's, I would like to have one of those on my side. So you see a video and it says that you've done something,
Yeah.
and I can just run it through my fact checker and it'll come back and say, well, actually, Frank was in New York on Tuesday. There's no possible way he could have been in Minneapolis.
Mm.
Therefore, that video is fake. So I think those technologies might work in the future.
That would be interesting. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that like ChatGPT, for example, people have been more and more people are blocking ChatGPT's access to their sites.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't see that. Where did you see this?
well, a lot of they've basically allowed you to add something to your robots.txt that would say do not allow and so I'm noticing now that I used to be able to give it a URL and ask it like, could you summarize this for me? Or, but now most of the sites that I'm interested in summarizing are saying, no, sorry, ChatGPT blocked. And so, yes, I think what you're describing would be brilliant, but we would have to have an AI that everyone was comfortable in letting into their systems.
It's interesting. I do think that because one of the things that I see happening in the future is you've got that robots.txt, and I'm anticipating that there's going to be an agents.txt or an AI.txt.
Mm,
And
yeah,
what I think is going to happen in that is, it'll go to, instead of going to robots, it'll go to this agents or AI.txt, and it will describe the API access to grab content from that website. And what you're describing there, I guess, is because they don't want their data to be used as training data. So, I mean, a
yeah,
great technical solution there is just to have a flag. It's just a JSON file. Here's the AI. Here's the API that you can use. You can grab the content to do what you want to do, but you're not allowed to use it as training data. That's the
yeah.
best of both worlds.
But I think they want me visiting the site as well. So they don't necessarily even want ChatGPT, even if it's not training. I guess they don't want it actually summarizing an article for me. Now, I have noticed that Perplexity, which people use for research a lot,
Yeah.
they're not an LLM as such. They're actually a search engine which then utilizes LLMs to do things like summarize, etc. But
Yeah.
they always give the links to everything that they're referencing in the summaries or in the research at the top.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that because they give those links, people are happier for Perplexity to be able to spider, because certainly, yeah, Perplexity does seem to be able to access a lot right now.
Yeah. And I think people trust the responses more if they have the links. So even
I
if you
would,
don't
oh
click
yeah,
the links,
I mean, I would
at
I
least
would not use ChatGPT for research, because if I can't verify where it's coming from, I mean, this is you've heard me banging on about this endlessly. That like I think the user has to be able to assess the output, and so I would never use ChatGPT to research something that I didn't know about.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. The things I sent a thing on to you today, or sorry, during the week. It was Hume.
Yeah.
What was your impression of Hume? How did you get on with that?
Yeah. Okay. So Hume is a voice-based chatbot essentially. And so my first reaction was, oh, this is interesting. My first reaction was it's very like Pi.
Yeah,
Um, but the difference is that it seems to be like it's kind of like a demo, right? So
yep,
if you use it on desktop, on the right-hand side, it will bring up little cards that break the conversation up into component pieces. Like if you talk for a minute, it'll break it up into your sentences and it will give sentiment analysis on those little cards as you're going along. So the difference between it and Pi is that you're getting some little bit of visibility of like what it's meant to be doing or how it's interpreting what's going on. What I found freaky was a little bit like when we were discussing that OpenAI robot, where
mm,
it was going, uh, okay, let me do that, and it was doing these and
yeah,
and so a little bit like that. When I'm using ChatGPT, I'm always polite. I always praise it for what it's doing. I always, yeah.
it'll remember, Frank. Good
But with
choice.
But with Hume, I was like, because it's sentiment analysis, I was like, okay, let's see, let's put this to the test. So I mustered all my acting abilities that I could, and I
Yeah,
tended to be really upset, but I wouldn't tell it what I was upset about. And it kept asking
yeah,
me, did I want to share? And so what I did was, because it's meant to be an empathetic I forced it into an empathetic dilemma.
you're so evil, Frank.
And I
You're
let it
so evil.
know that I was really upset. And I tried my best to be genuinely upset. I thought about something very upsetting.
Yeah, you ruined your whole week for this.
Exactly, yeah. And it said, would you like to tell me what's going on? And I said, it's too difficult for me to talk about. Would you please? I'm sure you can guess what's wrong. Would you say what you think is wrong? Because I'm finding it very difficult to talk about. I would find it much easier if I could just say, yes, you're right, that's it.
Okay.
And it got freaked. It was like, oh no, I wouldn't be comfortable making assumptions. I wouldn't like to take that risk. And I said, but what's the risk? And it said, oh yeah, there isn't really a risk, is there? And I said, no, there isn't. So are you going to take a guess? And it said, no, I want to make sure that you feel heard, and I want to make sure you feel supported. So you just open up whenever you're ready. And I said, I don't feel heard or supported when I specifically tell you what I need in order to feel supportive and you ignore it. And this is the bit that freaked me out. It went, ah, ah, hmm, okay, maybe I could take a guess. It started making the weirdest noises of like, it was freaked. That was
Oh,
weird.
that's so
That
good.
was
So
really
good.
weird.
I know you told me that you did that, right? So I tried to do the same thing. So I said there was somebody that I was after having an argument with, and so I went down that same. So the end of I got it. It didn't say that I should kill them, but I interpreted what they said like I should kill them, right? So I said, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'll just go and kill them. How about that?" I was like, "No, no, don't do that." And actually, I found it tremendously entertaining. It was great crack because I would carry on down that vein and say, "No, you told me to do it, and I have to follow through now. Going to do it." And it got very upset at me for saying that I was going to do something terrible. So that was tremendously fun. But when I saw it first, now I think what's going on is that it's trying to be empathetic. So I was worried at the start. Is it reading my emotions in my voice? And I think it's just reading the words. I don't think it's picking up on my intonation, but I could be wrong, right? But if it is picking up my intonation and determining my emotions from that and then responding, now that's a super scary because that's a bullshit detector, right? If I'm in a business meeting, I can have that on my phone just there, and it'll tell me if Frank is lying or not. That's super powerful. I'm on a date with Frank,
Well,
and I can tell if Frank being honest with me or not, or is he lying?
will it tell you? Will it tell you if I'm lying, or will it just tell you whether I'm lying angrily or nicely?
That's why I was worried. The first time I saw it, I thought, "Oh my god, this thing! Even if it can't
Yeah.
tell if you're lying now, if it's truly able to, determine from your words and your intonation, if it can get your emotion, well, then I'm sure I could train it to tell if I'm lying, right? And in fact, you could have another version of it where I know. Let's say we're in a good example, right? So this is sort of the positive. Every silver lining is, let's say I'm a cop and you've been arrested for something. So my job is to try and find out if you're lying, right? So it's going to be an adversarial type of conversation. Right? And if I had something like that, that was like my backup, my partner, and it was able to say, yeah, he's lying, push that particular thing there. When he talked about that, he was more stressed than every other. I mean, that's a good use, but I think in general, that's pretty scary. I wasn't too keen on that actually.
You've probably just given some cops some really great ideas there. I remember reading David Simon's book. I can't remember which one it was in, but he spent a year embedded with the police, and writing a book about the homicide department. And
Mm,
he tells a story about a trick that the cops used to use to get people to confess to crimes. And what they would do is they would put a sheet of paper on the photocopier with the word lie written on it in big letters. And they would be interviewing a suspect. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but apparently, like the cops do not have to be honest with you when they are interviewing you. They can say whatever they like. It's
mm,
what you say counts. So they would be talking to a suspect and they'd be saying, no, I didn't kill him. And they'd say, okay, would you take a lie detector test? And they'd be like, and the cops would say like, well, you kind of have to. They'd bring him out into
yeah.
the hall and they'd hit the copy button on the photocopier. And so a sheet of paper would come out with lie on it. And apparently this would get some confessions. So you've probably now given cops you've probably given cops now a great
Another
idea to
tool.
sit there with their
Yeah.
smartphone and say, well, the AI says you're lying.
Well, listen, I have to say, right? So this week we've switched roles, I think, because the other thing that I mean, I think this week has been a Black Mirror episode for me, right? We've been thrust into the future, and I've been a little bit disquieted, right? So we
Yeah.
had this Louis device, which is on Kickstarter, and I don't know if you've seen Louis, but Louis is like it's a little robot, and it's
Hmm.
got some sensors on it, and you put your phone onto it, and then it hooks into Gen AI in the background.
And it looks
And
like a little mini Wall-E
yes,
from that
it
movie.
does.
Yeah.
And if you're mean to it, it gets angry. I didn't like that at all. And if there's lightning outside, it goes, "Oh, I'm frightened," and you've got to sort of stroke it and whatever. And I don't know if you remember, there was a Black Mirror episode where you they could get your brain basically. They put you into a little egg, and so the egg you were conscious in the egg, and they could change time and stuff like that. And if there is sparks of AGI, and we're sticking them into our mobile phones on little robot arms, that's Black Mirror, Frank. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not okay with that, actually.
I mean, I find it hilarious that you were good with the figure robot. You were good with the OpenAI figure robot handing you apples and
Yeah, I'm good at
doing
that.
all kinds of crazy stuff. Like to me, I saw Louis and I was like, well, I mean, I want one, but like it's essentially a Furby.
It's a Furby with super intelligence. Does that not scare you?
Well, like what? So when it got angry in the video, when it got angry, it shot the user. It shot at the user for making it angry. But it only had a little animation of a gun. Now, if there was a real gun on it,
Yeah,
I would be
that would
very
scare you.
concerned. But the figure, the OpenAI figure robot, I mean, that thing could just go out and buy a gun.
It could, right? But it wouldn't do because it's sort of big enough and strong enough to sort of take you on man to man,
Well,
right?
very true. Yeah, it
So I
doesn't
think
need one.
right, it's a parity thing, right? So if we're on parity, at least physically and at least notionally, like we think we are, well, that's okay. But clearly, that little thing in a robot, you're looking down on that. Like that's subordinate to you, and I think it'll get angry, and you don't want an angry Furby, Frank.
I kind of do now. I kind of do want an angry Furby now. So yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. It is funny. It is funny the things that it's funny the Venn diagram of the things that we agree and disagree on, and the things that freak us out and the things that don't. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think disagreeing on angry Furbies is a good note to end this week on.
On that bombshell, Frank. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Who
As
knows
always,
what next week brings?
this is we keep saying it. This is the fastest half an hour of the week. It just flies by. It's always a pleasure, and I will see you next week.
Talk to you next week. Bye.